Hey, hey, Beat Baseball World. We are back once again with another secretary nominee for the National Beat Baseball Association, the Beepball Blues Show, Neal-Dawg, Bam Bam, Seth Dog. How are you? I missed you.
I'm good, man. I missed you too, Neal-Dawg. Missed
Thank
you
you.
too.
Thank
So
you.
does this mean with two different people running for the secretary? I don't know. There are only two people running for secretary. Does
Yep.
that mean our having people on the podcast that turn into winners will increase this year by at least one?
We have a 50% chance. Although the fact that we only have a 50% chance is
We
going
should
to
have a
weigh.
100% chance.
It's going to. Oh, I guess yeah. Because one of them. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. I don't know.
We
I guess
cannot
we
be
can't.
wrong, Neal-Dawg. We
Well,
cannot.
but one of them's not going to be elected secretary,
No,
so
that's
we
true.
can't take credit for them winning, whichever
All
one
right.
it is. And
All right.
that where I was going is that's going to hurt our success rate. We,
I
I mean,
see.
we've had a
All right.
self-proclaimed Rush Limbaugh type success rate.
All right. No,
Anyways,
exactly. Come
all
on
right.
here, you get elected.
All right. So we're going to bring in the current secretary of the NBBA and also who is running to once again become the secretary of the NBBA, Stephen Guerra. Hey, Steve.
Thank you. Welcome. How are you? What am I saying? Welcome.
Hey,
It's your
hey,
show. Thank
hey,
you.
bro,
Thanks for having me. Thanks for
thanks
having me
for
on.
inviting us. Thanks for
No
Yeah.
one
inviting
else
us
has
on the
welcomed
show.
me here before, so not
I
even Seth.
appreciate
It
All right.
always it's only going to be a Guerra that flubs it, so it's okay. I mean, thanks for having me on. Appreciate the opportunity.
No problem. For me, just jumping in, it's supposed to be against kind of journalism rules to ask a two-parter, and it's only lightly a two-parter. I was trying to remember when you actually started, like your first year as secretary, like '06. But I guess what makes it a two-parter, if you could say when you first ran for secretary, why that's the position you picked, and all these years later, what still motivates you to want to run again and be the secretary for the next 2 years?
Well, it's interesting in Strongsville that year in 2006.
I had the year right. That was your
Yeah.
first year. All right.
Yeah. Gina Wigan said she was not doing it again, and they asked if there was any nominations from the floor, and it was silence. It was crickets. It was just utter silence. No one dared speak because they didn't want to be put themselves into that position. And someone said to me, because I was sitting there watching the proceedings, when I said, "Steve, you interested?" Because I started to stand up because I actually was going to possibly leave and go to the bathroom or something. And they said, "Are you interested?" I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? I'll do it." Because I had been on the board at that point 5 years. I had been the bylaws chair. I had been part of the rules committee, done a little bit of everything, and I enjoyed the board experience. So they said, "Are you interested in doing it?" So I did and got nominated. And from that point until 2018, I ran unopposed for that long. And in 2018, Vanessa Brummer ran against me. And then now we have 2023. So what keeps me excited about the position, and maybe I need to have my head checked. Maybe I need to explore counseling, but I love disseminating the information and being in the mix of providing information for people when they want it. So if someone calls me, and it does happen, I don't promote it, but if someone calls me 11:30 at night, "Hey, I was just going through these things. I need this. I need these dates. I need the dates for the 2024 World Series." If I'm awake, I'll answer the phone and I'll tell them, "Well, it's July 21st through the 28th, 2024." So it's the giving back of information and empowering people and giving people the opportunity to know that the information can be had at a moment's notice. Now, is that healthy? Probably not, but I'm not healthy either, mentally. But I enjoy the job. I enjoy working with the people of the board, of all the committees, and interacting and speaking to new members and hearing people's excitement for the tournament, for the games, and learning information and learning how to do something and getting it right and being happy with that they could gain from the information I could provide.
Before, yeah, I assume you're going to jump in with the question, Seth, but there are two notes about going back to that '06 meeting. I, um, I didn't remember that you weren't a nominee ahead of time. Although we didn't, I don't know that we did quite as much. A lot of nominations came from the floor back then, but I didn't remember that you didn't go into it looking for that. But I also don't remember the story, Seth, because that is the General Assembly when you were in the hospital with bacterial meningitis fighting for your life. So I'm going to take a pass that I wasn't paying as close of attention.
Just to add to that for historical purposes, I don't think anybody knew really until that meeting that Gina was not going to run.
Yeah, all right.
I think she said, I'm done, or something happened that I'm done. But years ago, Neil, you probably remember this too. I mean, the tournament committee was the tournament committee, and they did not allow anyone in who wasn't part of the tournament committee. So, I mean, meeting consisted of about 5 people, maybe. And I remember sitting in Strongsville again, waiting in the hallway, and went to the door where the tournament committee meeting was going in, and Jeanette Bigger said, "Hey, you can't be in here. There's a tournament committee meeting." Really? Yeah, really. You have to get out. So, I mean, that was then. I mean, it's not like that anymore. But I mean, but it's just some history there. It's Gina was a great secretary. She was very assertive and sometimes aggressive, but she got the job done. And Jeanette also, in her own role as secretary, was, she led the pack. I mean, it's I learned a lot from her just by having conversations. But I mean, there's still a desire, and as long as there's still a desire, I still want to do it.
Jumping in on that, I guess almost a two-parter. Are you the longest serving officer or board member that is currently in the NBBA right now?
Yeah.
No, John Lukowski.
No, yeah, right. Well, you're right, John. But he's appointed.
Treasurer.
But he has a treasurer.
Okay, fair enough.
He's appointed, but he has served 30 years in that role.
Yeah. So
and he was on the board before that. Yeah.
And so the last time, when we did this show last year with, Axel, the whatever, Demetrius, all the kind of the new guys, they were talking about trying to bring in a kind of a breath of fresh air, right? To move the NBBA forward from where it had been in the past to where it should go in the future. I'm wondering, how prepared are you for that? And if the NBBA is really going into the future, the B part, doesn't it make sense to also, bring in new blood into this secretary position, which does have a lot of, let's say you were saying Janet led the pack, it does have a certain amount of power and ability to do things, attached to it. Is it time as we are going forward to try to recycle and put new blood into all these positions?
I don't think someone should have the opportunity to jump right into the secretary's job. The secretary's job is different now in 2023 than it was in 2006. And it was different from when Gina took over and when Jeanette became the secretary from Cora, when Cora was a treasurer secretary. It's evolved. I think someone really wholeheartedly needs to get in as a board of director and see the process and understand the intricacies that go along with being a board member. I think the current board members are diligent and hardworking and are asking the questions that people are asking while sitting on a bar stool at the World Series and raising a ruckus, and they're asking the questions, and our processes have changed from when Dave Smoker was president to when Dan Green was president to Blake and now to Jerry. I mean, the process has evolved and has evolved positively. Do I think it's? I mean, again, I wholeheartedly don't feel that someone can jump into an officer's role without having previously served as a board of director. I served as a board of director before I became secretary and I kept my mouth shut and listened a lot. There was many nights at board meetings that I was involved in conversations to the wee hours of the morning with Neal. And I learned a lot from Neal because he was on the board before I was. And I mean, you have to ask a lot of questions. I remember the first time I wanted to get involved with and talk about joining the board. I spoke with Michael Garrett and I asked him, I go, what do you think about the NBBA partnering or getting to partner with the USABA? He goes, that ideology won't get you elected. That's 20 years ago, 23 years ago. It's a different ballgame now. It's a whole different other perspective. So if someone is really interested in learning and seeing what goes into being an officer, it's really important for them to, when 24 and 25 come around, for being nominated and being elected to the board, and really getting out there and speaking to everyone. It's not a popularity contest, but if people don't know who you are, you're not going to get elected. And the more you talk to people and the more you share ideas or listen to their ideas, and the people are going to respect you. So that's just my take. I don't mean to go too far off tangent. I hope I answered your question.
Piggybacking off of Seth's question a little bit, and looking into the future, I guess I look at these roles on the board similar to like if we're a player on the field. Sometimes during the off season, you realize that you need to work a little harder on your base running. Sometimes you maybe need to work on your batting stance a little bit, or different aspects of defense. I feel like we all should take, if we're involved like on just something as important as the NBBA board, we should all take that same kind of idea, I guess. So looking forward, if you're elected again as the secretary, are there things that you do you feel like you just need to keep doing, keep doing what you're doing, or are there things that you would like to improve on?
There's always things that I want to improve on. I think if you go, not to take anything away from my predecessors, but if you look at Cora and you look at Jeanette, who held the position for 10 years or plus, they did the roles and as to maybe what they were groomed to do, or to where they've learned from the previous individual who was doing it. And again, it was different. There's always ways for me to improve the processes that I do on a regular basis, and there's lots of ways for me to hand off things to other people to have them do what they want, what they need to do. And I guess maybe take a lesser of a role is to doing everything and being that person who could do everything doing it. There's always a ways to improve. I want to improve. I mean, that's the only way that you learn. And I think learning, part of that is also listening more. I think if I have the opportunity to speak with more people and listen to what they have to say, and everyone has ideas. Are they realistic? I think it's just a matter of digesting them and seeing how maybe someone's idea can be turned around into something positive, as opposed to being way out in left field. So listening and improving my organizational processes, and being a better servant to the membership of the league and the board.
So do you view your position kind of as a gatekeeper? Right, like the ideas flow kind of, up through you, or your position on the board, you can kind of shape things, or keep the passion of the people sitting on the bar stools, as you put it, kind of channel their passion into action? Or do you, as perhaps as a gatekeeper, do you channel their kind of damp down their, sorry, my phone, damp down their expectations and make them, think more, rationally? Are you there trying just to, let's say, improve the ideas that the board is bringing, or do you kind of view your role as shaping kind of those ideas?
A little bit of both. I mean, my teammates from the Minnesota Millers, and they constantly joke with me and say I'm the minister of disinformation. But I mean, that's all fun. That's all fun. I mean, it's all in good and fun. I think overall, I have the opportunity to listen to a lot more people. I can listen to people who will call me up in a blue minute or a clear blue sky and say, hey, I have this idea, and I'll tell them, well, let me take that information, let me digest it, let me speak to people who are best able to work with you on that idea, and let's see if we can make this work. It may not necessarily be exactly what you were presenting or what you're speaking about, but something of it can come of it, and something from it, I should say, can come of it, and maybe we can make this work to make it best for everyone. I think one of the things that probably maybe most people don't know, and most people sometimes don't always present it this way, but I think if more people knew with bylaw proposals and rule proposals, that they knew that they would have to go look at the current wording and present their proposal, as opposed to just being the proposal itself and saying, hey, this is the current wording and this is what I'm proposing to change. And it could be a matter of a few words. Let's take, for example, the thing that Demo presented. So now, years ago, Eddie Brown presented that when there's a dead ball, the umpire had to come out into the field, stand over the ball, and see if he heard a dead ball. We modernized that, where with Demo's proposal, that when the umpire comes out to the dead ball, because that's going into effect this year, that when he's listening for the ball, the base that was on during the play when the ball became dead has to be on, because then the umpire shouldn't be in any more of an advantage to tell if that ball's ticking or not, more so than the person who's trying to field the ball. So that's evolved over time. I think people, maybe there has to be more seminars, or maybe it has to be more educational things to present to the members and to those who want to change a rule or something, to say, like a mentoring type of a situation, that this is how it should look, or take the opportunity. And previously, when I was rules chair for all of about 2 minutes or whatever, some couple years ago, someone would present a rule and say, this is how I would suggest you change that, where keep your proposal, but include the wording so people understand and follow the pattern as to what you're looking to change. And sometimes people don't know that, and there's no one person for them to go to ask. But I mean, there's a lot of information that could be delivered to people for a better understanding, and I don't think there's such a disgust for the board as there used to be. I mean, years ago, a mutual friend to all of us used to say, he said to me, "You're running for the secretary position again?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." And he said, "Well, I wouldn't do anything but run." So I guess everybody knows who I'm talking about.
I've said it to you, and I've said it on the previous show with our previous candidate, that of the positions that I desire on the board, secretary will never be one of them. So before we wrap up, because we said ahead of time these were supposed to be shorter, do you have anything you would like to get out there as far as your nomination before we wrap things up that we didn't touch on?
I think most of all is my track record as secretary for the last 17 years is well demonstrated and documented. I've introduced a lot of great processes that we have implemented and we're using today. The electronic payments, say for instance, I was part of the process to put in place the electronic voting, and electronic means for communication is, of course, where we are now. It was different then in 2006 than it is now, and I'm glad to have been part of it, and I would like to continue to be part of the forward progression of the organization. I would like to thank you guys for having me on, but I also encourage everyone, the greatest privilege you have is your right to vote. So if you want to affect change and you want to be part of change and you want to be part of the progress that we have going forward, then come to the hospitality room or go to the headquarters tent at the fields and pick up your token and vote. And I think we traditionally have only ever had, the most we've ever had is 210 people voting out of our membership of 461. So we need to get more people to vote. There's more time. Time is open between Monday after the General Assembly and 8 o'clock on Wednesday night. So don't check your responsibility. You're a member. You're entitled to vote. Take the opportunity and vote.
I know Seth will say hear to that when it comes to making sure you vote.
Yes, I agree.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this one. Unless you have something else, Seth? All right. Cool.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your opportunity.
Just like we wish Pam, good luck to you. Good luck to all the nominees. And I look forward to seeing everybody out there next week. We have one more show. The live recording will be Friday morning, 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific. That's all I'm going to tell you, but I'm very excited about this show. It'll be a great way. It'll be the last show before the World Series. It'll be a great way to get you all ready for Norman, Oklahoma. So we will see you then. Everybody be well.